Hello everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining today's session. This is Kalyani Rajeshwaran from IT team Amar Seva Sangam. We will wait for a few minutes for others to join. Meantime, I will play a video about our application.
share today. Screen half I Thanks for watching. Before start the session, some housekeeping notes. This will help us to run the session smoothly. So these are all some housekeeping notes. We have muted everyone by default, so it won't be disrupted by latecomers. And we will enable the unmute option only at the QA session. And then when you want to talk, just click the microphone icon at the bottom of the bar to unmute or mute yourself. And please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. When the speaker talking or sharing the screen, please write in the chat box and let us know if you can't see or hear something. You are welcome to use the chat box throughout. Either the speaker will reply orally or we will respond in the chat itself. Kindly check your Zoom version. It should be in updated version. It will help you to participate on the poll session. And we will share the feedback link at the end of the session in the chat box. Kindly fill it out to get the e-certificate. Okay, let's start the session. First, I am going to introduce our wonderful speakers. Mr. S. Raman. You people all may know about him. Mr. S. Raman is a versatile person. First of all, he is a chartered accountant and he is a wheelchair user affected by muscular dystrophy. And he is our Amar Seva Sangam's Honorable Secretary, and he is the lead principal investigator of our globally recognized early intervention program. And he is the visionary behind this enabling inclusion program, which provides child rehab services to children with developmental delays through our award-winning enabling inclusion app. And he is an Ashoka Fellow and graduate of Harvard University in Strategic Nonprofit Management India program.
and he received a lot of awards for his wonderful achievements. Welcome you, sir. And another speaker, Mrs. Navamani ma'am. Ms. Navamani is a pediatric physiotherapist who has over 15 years of experience in promoting mobility and function in children with disabilities. She worked for this rehabilitation program in several places in India and in Mongolia. Now she is a leading implementation officer of our Enabling Inclusion program. Welcome you, ma'am. Hereby, I hand over the session to the speakers. Sorry, please go ahead. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Good morning, everybody. I am happy that I am being introduced with a lot of laurels being showered on me by the introducer. I am a person with a lot of thinking and imagination about persons with disabilities, and that may be the reason why I am at sometimes expecting too much for the benefit of persons with disabilities. My obsession is in a way beneficial, so that it pushes me up and keeps me all the time engaged with the activities. As you all can see that I am a person, even though in a wheelchair, just another person, and I believe that that should be the case. And when I am interacting with people, fortunately, all of you are interacting with me virtually. So in a way, it is a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, when I am in person, mostly I had opportunities to interact and give my lectures in person. But the people doesn't look at me, but they look at my wheelchair. So that is the problem. So the problem is not for me, the problem is for those who are looking at my wheelchairs. So they get an idea, and I interact with them and I speak with them. And as I keep moving in my interactions and associations with the people, they forget my wheelchair. They tend to start looking at me as a person. So we all are achievers. Whether you are disabled or are non-disabled, that is not a matter, but it is a question of how you look at your life, how you think about yourself. You are what you think, what you are. So if you have a positive opinion about yourself, then you are automatically an achiever, a winner. So with this few words, I would like to start my presentation. This is about the government alliances that we are going to discuss about. This is how to network and how to advocate with the government. Government is, of course, naturally a very key partner in the society, a key prime mover in the society, and we should not leave them out in our initiatives, in our efforts. We all have our own priorities, our own passion for the work that we are doing, and we have initiated some solutions for the cause, and this has to keep going. And government is the most powerful entity on the earth. Any country, any state, they are the most powerful ones. They have to be involved in a social problem. So if they don't get involved, then they are not accountable. They are actually we taxpayers' money that is being used for them, and they have to be responsible for this kind of social initiatives. So we cannot afford or let them have without a participation in our initiatives. So it is a good idea to have them on board and have them with us. Now, there are a lot of pros and cons associated with the government, which we will be discussing. And when we are going to discuss about the government, we have to think about what role the government has to play in our initiatives. So how we are going to conduct this session is, there is a definition of social impact, which you can see at the end. But then we have to look at our own activity, what we are doing in the society, in the social space. There are several different approaches, and there are so many ways by which we can take our initiative in the society. So the one way is that we do it by directly delivering the solution, directly delivering the services. For example, when we in Amar Seva Sangam, we helped to establish a completely accessible bus station in the nearby Tirunelveli city. But this is a one-time solution, which is directly done by us and with the support of the government. But then this single intervention doesn't provide a large solution. It doesn't give make a big difference in the lives of persons with disabilities. So we went to the government and advocated for it. And at the end, there was a case in the Supreme Court where it said that all mobility provisions, all bus stations or railway stations should have accessibility for disabled people. So that changed the scenario, and slowly now everything is getting ready for a person with disabilities with access to the transport system. Even though that is not happening fully, we are catching up. So we start from direct intervention, and we have to also look at various other aspects in the society, including the mindset of the people, how people perceive things, how they look at things. When we are talking about the plastics, for example, about 30 years or 35 years back, plastic bags are the most wonderful solution because everyone was able to package things. But then soon we realized that plastic is most toxic and it is obnoxious to the society. So now we are in a state that we want to change everything, and we want to move away from plastic, and we want to get into some so there is a change in the mindset. Earlier in the days, about 25 years back, when we were discussing about the accessibility of the elections for persons with disabilities, the Election Commission ruled out any specific provisions because of so many logistic and financial constraints. But later on, as we kept advocating, things have changed totally. Now the Election Commission, not only they are providing for the accessibility requirements, but also they are giving awareness and going out to the villages and promoting elections, participation of persons with disabilities in the election process. So there is a big mindset change. That mindset changes do happen, but that requires a lot of patience and a lot of efforts. And the society should understand and have good knowledge about why a change in their attitude is required, that will be a betterment for their own. So when we talk about interventions, there are some direct intervention, then going up to the scale up when we expand our activities and impact to various other people in the society. We engage the government, we engage the NGOs, and we start expanding the delivery of services. Then you have the system change, where you look at not just the delivery of services, but then you look at the sustainability of the services that are being rendered. It has to continue, and a change in the system would mean that the delivery or the benefits will continue irrespective of whether you are there or you are not there. So the 4 different ways of your services will have different levels of impact. And when we are talking about this impact and the initiative that we are taking, the problem that we are addressing may also keep changing its character. When we are doing a direct service, we are delivering the services and we are addressing to the immediate needs. But when we are scaling up, we are reaching out to larger numbers, and the impact will be more in terms of numbers. But when we are talking about the system change, we are addressing to the more deeper aspect of the social issue. For example, if it is early intervention, when we are doing the direct service, we are addressing to the problems of non-availability of the rehab specialists, addressing to the issues of the cost involved and the barriers on travel for persons with disabilities. When we are scaling up, we are addressing to the aspect of getting more people and more stakeholders involved, like the government, like the NGOs, like the corporate. But when we are talking about the system, we are looking at a different thing. We are tackling the problem of government and other entities not able to provide the services, and what are those reasons. If the government is not able to provide the services to the people at the rural areas, then the problem is like their schemes are not delivering it to the last mile. And for that, there is a lack of convergence of their efforts. And there are budgetary constraints and there are policies that needs to be put in place. And when we are talking about the mindset change, again, the children with disabilities are looked at as a burden, and the family priorities are for other children and not for the children with disabilities. So when we are looking at the different types of intervention, we are handling different types of root cause of the problems. And it is not necessary that we should start from direct service and move slowly to the mindset change. We can directly enter into any one of these. And the alliance with the government can happen at any of these places. If you are doing a direct service, you are planting trees, or if you are looking at any climate change improvements, you can deliver it directly, like you can come out with solar solutions for bringing green energy, and you can involve the government in that. You can look at the system change level and start looking at people not to cut trees, not to cut the forest areas. And you look at the government to support you with legislations and policies. You can straight away go to the mindset change also, like what has happened with the plastics and what has happened with the election accessibility to disabled people. So you can start working with the government right away in any one of these areas. It is not necessary that you have to follow the hierarchy. It is not a hierarchy. When I am dealing with so many people with different solutions, they all imagine certain things in their mind. They look at the problem with imagining something like an elephant or a tiger, someone who is dealing with the women's liberation. They, in those days, they were imagining the problem to be like a tiger because it is very difficult to handle. Somebody who was dealing with the education system in this country, they were imagining the problem to be like an elephant. So each one of you will be working in different areas, and I would be looking at you to put in your chat box what you think is the problem that you are facing, what pictorial depiction or imagination or image that you, it is not necessary that you should only put the animal figure. If is anything on the earth, you can put in the chat box what problem you are facing and how you are imagining the problem to be. Prasad? Prasad, can you just come in the way and help in the chat box? I can give you a couple of minutes so that you can put the imagination of your problem in the chat box. For example, when we are dealing with the early intervention in our area, I used to imagine that to be like sort of a river because it keeps flowing and it is never ending with a lot of bends and curves. And when I was dealing with the empowerment of persons with disabilities, then I was looking at it as a big forest area where I have to navigate myself.
No, sir. I was Prasad here, sir. Good morning.
Yeah.
Unmute permission was there. I requested unmute permission, right? That's why it took some time, right? Thank you very much to Secretary Sir. I welcome all of you to this webinar session, and we just started, and we just wanted to get into the subject in a serious mode right away, right? So I will give a one personal example of how I think when I associate myself with this kind of big projects. Actually, when I was doing my previous project, that was a huge venture, right? What happens with me is like every day when I come to office, I don't visualize myself as a single animal or whatever this thing. For example, if you take the picture, what is there in this slide itself, when I enter office, I'll feel like a rat. Literally, like afraid of the gigantic task in front of me, right? And as I move through the day, slowly I'll gain some confidence. I become a rabbit, I become a tiger, and I become elephant. At the end of the day, again the burden of the task comes me and become a typical.
Okay, that's great. So you travel through a day with so many animals. That's great, wonderful.
Right,
okay.
right.
Okay.
So
I'd like to move forward to the next one.
Yeah.
If anybody else has any other thoughts, they can share it in the chat box. And going forward with our presentation. Now, having said that, there are different ways of approaching a social issue and different ways by which we can start our intervention at different levels. And then we have to also see how we can make it in a little more scientific way. So you have a result framework format as a tool, which maybe most of you also will be knowing. People working in the social sector will always know about the inputs, the various inputs, what are all the activities, and what are all the outputs that are coming out, and the outcomes and the impact. So it is basically a result framework which helps all of us to put down on paper how we are going to reach our goals, what we have actually envisioned. So in Amar Seva Sangam's case, this is a matrix, the activity matrix. So in our case, I will be talking a lot about Amar Seva Sangam and the enabling inclusion. And the purpose of this is that to share our experience in this field, so that we want to spell out the concepts coming out of that. And it is by no means an attempt to promote ourselves for our product, but more to impress upon the importance and the learnings that we have had on all these aspects. So for example, in this result framework, the inputs for our activities are the human resources mainly, and the technology, and of course the funding. And the activities that we had to do, because we were doing the direct intervention. So our mode was direct intervention. So we had to, do the daily home-based visits, and then there will be evaluations, then there is a technology that tracks all the activities and manages the program. And then we have to do public awareness programs. All these are our activities to make the program to take a shape and come out with some kind of results. And the outputs are the number of children, the number of parents, the number of training programs, and all that. And the outcomes are the amount of change, the improvement in the functionalities of the children, then the compliance rate, how much the children are getting the therapy from the workers and also from the parents. And also the result of that is how much the parents' stress levels are lowered, and ultimately the benefit goes to the level of increase in the school enrollment. And with that, the impact, because we are involving the government from the beginning, the impact is the government is changing the policy in favor of the early intervention, and they are now coming out with the dedicated budget for the early intervention program, and the adoption of our model in their policy statement. And they are also promoting the NGO government partnership in the process. So having said that, there are 4 different levels of our initiative. Now, Kalyani, can you just pull out the poll so that people can share what they are working?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am sharing the poll.
What level they are?
Yeah, I launched the poll.
Yeah. I think some people are answering it, and maybe we will wait for another 30 seconds and then we will close the poll.
Yes, sir. Shall I close the poll? Or wait for a few minutes?
Yeah, somebody is still.
Somebody's are answering, yeah.
Sir, somebody can, Kalyani, somebody can read out the questions maybe.
We will share it at a later stage. We will proceed with the presentation. So we are running short of time. So we will share the questions and other documentation of this program at a later stage. Proceeding further.
Yes, I am closing the poll.
We'll close the poll now. And we will publish the results. Yeah. We can publish the results.
Yes, sir. Publish the results, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
The answers with the correct answers.
Okay.
Stop sharing.
You can at the end show the right answers for the questions. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, going forward, we have to work with the government. If we are going to work with the government, we also should have a very clear understanding of why we are going to work with the government, and what are the basic necessities, and what are the preparations that we should have when we are working with the government. Because government, as I was telling, and imagine an animal, I would imagine the government to be a big white elephant. So it is an elephant that we have to manage. And it is a tricky one. And if we are able to manage it, the results will be very good. So then, when we are talking about the reasons why we want to work with the government, it is obvious that everyone knows about it. They have the authority, they have the accessibility to all the resources, then they have the ability to influence people. They can, the political leaders campaign for a thing, then people automatically get followed with them. And they have a huge reach. They have not only the reach of people and resources in that state, but also in other places. So their enormous capacities are available for the social cause. If we are able to advocate with them, then obviously then our social issues will get resolved and it will have a maximum impact. So we have to do a situation analysis to begin with, and then we should find the root causes, then find the solutions, and then decide where we want to be, whether we want to be in the direct intervention segment or we want to be in the scale up or systems or in mindset change. So once we have that exercise done, then we are in a much better position to negotiate and advocate with the government. So we have to be very clear about what is the main problem that we are addressing. We should be able to articulate that very clearly. And we should also tell what if it is not addressed. For example, if it is the early intervention for children with disabilities, the main problem is that the children are becoming dependent and they are causing stress to the family and burden to the whole society. And we have to tell the government that in India, there is X number of children with disabilities who need to be given the access for early intervention. And we should tell the government why people are not able to get the access. We have to tell them that because of there are not enough physiotherapists, not enough special educators, and the centers are located in distant places. The government centers are not accessible. Then the cost of traveling is so high. So because of all these things, they are not able to do. And there are about 52 million children, 53 million children in the entire world needing such services. In India, you have 2.3 million. In Tamil Nadu, it is 100,000. If you tell all this, then the government will look up at you and see what it can do. You can say that there are only one for every 100,000 children, you have physiotherapists. So there is a very, very low proportion of availability of specialists. And you can say that the government having different programs, they are all in urban centers, and they are not able to reach out. So if we tell all this, the government will have an initial response to look at your problem and see what best it can do. Then you have to figure out the root cause of the problem and also find out what kind of a solution that you can offer. I will give it to Navamani now, where she will be able to talk about the problems and solutions. I will broadly outline that there will be an apparent problem in front of us, and there will be some consequences arising out of that. So these two are the basis for which we will be working, and we will be telling the government. If it is the early intervention, we will say that the children are not getting the services, and the visible issues are children with disabilities are always depending on their parents, and they are not seen in the school. School enrollments are low, and obviously the parents are economically suffering because of the children not able to get functionally capable. So this is the problem at the different levels, and what the solution that we can offer is either you do it home to home basis, you go and deliver services, or you start a center nearby, or you provide mobile services and deliver the early intervention where children can come and get the services. And there are so many such means by which you can offer the solution. So this is the solution, and the root cause is that the children are not able to access because of lack of specialists, a lack of adequate transport systems, and the cost involved. So how to get to this solution and how to further get into the government, Navamani can step in and give her a presentation on how the solutions can be worked out. And there are 5 R's which will be helpful for you to understand how to proceed on finding a solution. Navamani, can you come in?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Can I share the screen, sir? Can you all see the screen?
We are able to see the screen.
Thank you, sir. So before going to work with the government or going to advocating with the government, we should be able to thoroughly explain our program. So we should do some kind of homework before reaching the government. So one thing Secretary Sir told about the problem tree, how we are doing analyzing. Now I am going to explain about the solution tree. This is working reverse of the problem tree. In the first step of the solution tree, we should define the goal or what is our vision for the big problem which we want to address. So what, how, and what are the changes we would like to see in the community with respect to the big problem? We should be able to communicate this one. So this is our first step. And the second step is analyze all possible intervention. Like for one big problem, there may be so many root causes. So for the intervention also, there may be so many intervention required. So we should analyze what are all the intervention would require to achieve that big goal. The third step is check any other NGOs, government, or some other philanthropists are doing that intervention. Different kind of intervention. Their big goal may be different, but they would be doing some interventions which relate to this intervention. So check. This will help us to do networking and to learn from their experience. The fourth step is choose appropriate intervention. Appropriate means like there may be so many interventions required, but we cannot address all the interventions possible. So we have to choose the appropriate intervention in terms of the finance, in terms of feasibility, in terms of sustainability with respect to the geographical situation. So now we have the big goal and we have analyzed all the interventions possible, and we have also chosen our own intervention methods. The fifth step is brainstorming all the possible effects on various stakeholders due to the changed situation. Like whatever we are envisaging for our the problem, if it is achieved, what are the other positive impact it would create on the society, that we need to analyze. This is because sometimes the government may not be directly interested in the big problem we are addressed, but they may be interested in the effects or the big impact it produces. So we should be able to showcase all the possible impacts and all the possible results due to our program. So I'm going to give an example of how this solution tree can be. So one is our big goal with respect to our early intervention project is all children with developmental delays and disabilities are getting early intervention services in South Tamil Nadu. This is our big goal. So the step 2 is what are the things we need to do? First one, we need to create awareness among the community about the developmental delay and disabilities. Another one thing, we need to create more more service opportunities. It may be a center or it may be a home base, but we need to create a lot of service opportunities. Third one is we also need to network with private hospitals, government hospitals, and other service providers in order to catch the children at very young age. So it may require health worker service and all. So there may be like that. There may be other few interventions required to achieve this big goal. And the third step we did is we also analyzed the other NGOs, other philanthropists working in relate to that one, anyone working with the women, so that we can give the women empowerment or the information or the community awareness with them. So like that, we also did analyzed the other NGOs and their capacity and the results they are producing due to this. So we analyzed that one. And the fourth one is we have chosen our own method. So there may be a home-based method, center-based method, or different methods. So we chose home-based early intervention services for the rural areas. So once we have done we have chosen our method, we also did what are the impact if the big problem is addressed will create in the society. So reduced family strain, because the information to the families, the young parents are given early, so there is a reduced family strain. And improved school enrollment, because the children are given early intervention at very young age because of this program. Their capacity to their functional capacity and the development is good, so they are able to be enrolled in the school at early age. And the economic level of the families, it is not directly we are working on the economic level of the families, but the families that are spending for the intervention for the rehabilitation of the children have significantly reduced. So this has so the economic level of the family is maintained. So this is how this is one just example of how we have to work on the solution tree. The next one is the system. Before addressing the government, we need to identify which system is responsible for the to give the to address this big problem. There may be a direct system working on that one, or there may be some system which is responsible to address this problem. So the next step is to identify the system the responsible for addressing the big problem. The other step is understanding the system and its current level of functioning. There are 5 R's to understand the system. The first one is result. What is the current result that the system is producing? So, what is the current result that the system is producing? But each system would produce some result. It may be ineffective or inefficient or not enough, but each system would produce some impact, some result. So we need to understand what result the system is producing, whether there is any trend, whether it is increasing trend or decreasing trend. In the results. The next one is we need to analyze the resources. Each system would be taking some resources, human resource, financial resource, and other resources. What are the resources coming into the system? Is the resources given to the system is adequate, and what are the sources of the resources? Whether the result of the system is looped, means the impact of the system is channelized so that it can advocate or it can receive more funds or more resources into the system. So we need to analyze the resources. The third one is rules. Each system is governed by some or the other rules. The rules may be formal or informal. Formal rules are policies, legislations, and informal rules are which is the system based, and it is mostly the society oriented. So what are the rules governing that system? The rules, how effectively the rules are explained to the actors in the system. The actors are the service user, the common people, the government, the NGOs, and other stakeholders. So whether the rules are explained to them and how efficiently the rules are followed. So these are the systems we need to understand about the rules. The other one is roles. What are the roles each actor in the system are playing? There may be sometimes 2 different players, actors will play one single role, or sometimes one person will play different roles. For example, an NGO who can be the implementing agency as well as an advocating agency. The another example is government also implementing the education and also the private also running the schools. So school education, private and government both are doing. So one role, but different actors are doing. In that NGO's example, it is one NGO, but doing different roles. So we need to understand the roles of different actors within the system. The fifth one is relationship. What type of relationship exists between the different actors, whether it is strong, whether it is explained, how well the relationship between the system, whether it is formal relationship, informal relationship. So these are the 5 things we need to understand about the system which we are going to target. This will help us greatly while working with the government. Thank you so much. Secretary Sir, can you take over?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Navamani. I will be now sharing the screen and continue with my presentation. In the meantime, if anybody has any queries, they can raise their hands so that we can answer them. So anybody has any queries, please raise your hand. Porcelvi, can you unmute yourself? I think Kalyani, you please unmute her.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, Pursavi ma'am, can you please try now? Then unmute. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, what is your question?
I have a question to ask Navamani, ma'am. Ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, proceed.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you explained very well about this 5 hours. Ma'am, I didn't get about this roles.
Okay. The role is like different people, different actors within the system may play different roles. Suppose if it is an education system, I'll explain with a simple example. Education,
Okay.
maybe the government also one of the service provider. So education and the children are the service receiver, and the funding is the government. So like that, the funders may be different. The one may be government and maybe the other. So within the system, there may be different players. So what are their roles? So it depends upon the system which we are working on. So it cannot be common for all systems. So it is like which system we are working, whether it is an education system, whether it is a health system, or even within the health system, is there anything specific to that system? So first of all, we need to identify the system, and within the system, what are the stakeholders are there and what are the roles we need to identify.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now it's clear. I'm confused little, but it's clear, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay. Now I will share the screen. Yeah, now you just have a look at it. Are you able to see the screen, all of you? Yeah, this is what Navamani was talking about, the 5R. In our case, you would see that the initial stages, the system was like the child at the right-hand side end and the parents are on the left-hand side. So there is a big gap, so many people coming in between. And ultimately, the child is not able to get its services in the way that we wanted it. But right now, when the systems are changed, when the government comes into the play, then you see that government services are converging. The side at the bottom, in the picture at the bottom, various government programs are coming together. Funding agency and NGO like us, we all become a one segment, and the rehab professionals and the community workers, they directly interact with the parents, and the parents come closer to the child. So this is a system change because you can see the resources, the roles, and the results, all these things, how they are getting changed. We will share this presentation with you so that this will be more clear to you later. And coming to the main presentation again, I'll be sharing. This is the main presentation. We will continue with this. Now, having said what are all the 5 R and what are all the various ways by which you can analyze a problem, you can analyze the results and the solutions. Now you have to decide where you want to be when working with the government. So you can see that in different stages or different type of intervention, the results that you can be expecting are different. As I earlier mentioned, depending upon the stage at which you are having your program, you will be handling the cause of the problem, which will be different. If you go deeper into the system, then you will find the problem that you are handling is a much more basic and much more the basic root for the cause of the problem. And when you are going to the mindset, then it is again you are going much more deeper. So when you are working in the direct implementation level and working with the government, then you will be looking at the changes happening in the individuals, the changes happening in the organizational levels of the government, then the impact that it will have a society, which is not a very long-term solution, but a short-term solution. For example, when we are working with the government in some districts, then it is a direct implementation is what we are still doing. And the impact is for a few number of kids. And, the project is not a self-sustaining one. Once the government moves out, then the project will suffer. So it is only a short-term initiative. But when you are looking at the system change, then you are looking at the organizational change. You are looking at the government itself coming out with a holistic program, and the market also changes. The market means that children are in our example. Here, the entire state becomes a targeted population for the solution. And the government will come out with policies and certain regulatory frameworks. So here you are looking at a big picture, and the impact will be much deeper. It will be at the organizational level in terms of various departments coming together and providing services, and also in terms of societal in the sense you have all the stakeholders being impacted on this. It is not just the parents and the children, but it will be including the educational institutions, the health services. There are so many other, the corporates, the business houses who provide employment, who provide funding, the multilateral agencies with whom the government will tie up for funds, and so many aspects in the societal area, dimension also. So there will be a very different kind of problems depth that you will be addressing when you are looking at the system change, and the solution will be long term and it will be sustained. It will be like, it will not be NGO specific, it will not be NGO dependent, and the program will continue even if as an NGO you have initiated it, but the program will continue and keep on benefiting the society even if you are not there. You will be the initial promoter of this, but then the whole initiative would have grown much bigger, and you might not be very critical for the success of the program, but it is the system that is being put in place that will be the most critical one to provide the services on a continued basis. And again, when you are going much deeper, then it is the attitudes and beliefs, and it is a much wider and much deeper issue that will get addressed over a period of time. It is not going to happen very easily, but it will take time. So this is how we have learned our lessons in our enabling inclusion application, and we have involved the government at all levels, from direct intervention level to scale up to right now, we are working on the system change level. We are advocating the government to come out with policies, and there are some progress that we are already making. So when you are going to work with the government, or any partner for that matter, you are not only carrying your model, you are not only carrying your solution, whether it is technology or whatever it is, but you are also carrying along with you the values for which you are standing for, the commitment, and the cause which you want to handle, the basic principles that you want to adopt, the purpose for which you are initiating. And it has to be with the utmost integrity. So you carry all this with you. It is not just your solution. It is not just you want to scale up, you want to change the system just like that, but it has to be on the principles of the values for which you stand for. And this is where you will have to balance very tactfully, and you have to ensure that the values and the principles and the commitments are not diluted, but the whole exercise, the whole initiative is taken for a big scale up and for a big system change. You find that many of the initiatives taken by our people, our forefathers in our independence struggle and later on, and now we find that many things have got diluted. The abolition of zamindari systems, the privy process that was introduced when the princes and the local kings were all absorbed by the government, and there were many other social reforms that the government did in the immediately after the independence. But now we find that the values are diluting, and which is a very difficult situation. When we want to make a change, we should ensure that. And based on this, you all have to ponder on where you want to go, whether in your intervention you want to be at the direct intervention level or scale up level or system change level, or you want to look at the mindset level. We will be, I think Kalyani will be sharing in the chat box a Word a document link where all of you can put your name and then tell your project and also the level of intervention that you have in your mind. Whatever be your level, you always will have the government along with you, because even if you are not going to partner with government, you have to follow the rules and regulations, the local law of the state. There are so many things that the government will be along with you, even if you are not directly working or interacting with them. The government is always there with you. So you have to keep in mind all these aspects, and you have to also get the government involved, not only just merely monitor or regulate, but involved. That will be the most important one for the, and also reach more people, and also to get the full benefit of the initiative that you have started. Then when you are, while you are, you can take a look at the Word document and work on that. Maybe you need not divert your attention immediately on that, but you can work on the document even after the presentations and all is over, and we will be able to get your inputs from the document, and everyone also can share on that because it is automatically shared. So now going next, how to approach the government. So you have to be very clear on what you want to achieve and what the big picture that you are looking at. And you should have a collaborative mindset where your solution may have to be adapted to the requirements of the ground situation that is prevailing. Because when you are operating at a local level, your ground realities would be different. But when you are doing it at a bigger level, reaching out to larger people, tying up your networking with other NGOs in other states and other parts of the country, then the ground realities of those areas has to be factored. And also the resources of the NGOs and the government with whom you are working also to be factored, because that resource requirements would be a very important criteria for determining your level of engagement. And you have to keep in mind that your solution is not a one fit solution for all situations. Your solution is a success and it is a good model, but then it may have to be adapted. That has to be kept in mind when you are doing the work with the government. It is very, very important. And when you are working with the government, you may have the two major areas to tackle. One is the regulatory aspects or the policy frameworks of the government. The other is the kind of delivery systems they already have. When you are talking about the, for example, health services, the infant mortality rates, the maternity mortality rates, these are all key aspects which the government is focusing. So they are extending their services through various public health centers, various government hospitals, for example. And they also have a regulatory framework where they monitor even the non-government hospitals about the infant mortality and the MMR, that is maternal mortality rates. So whoever is operating in the field of bringing improvements and changes in these areas of healthcare should keep in mind what are the regulations and what are the services they are extending. So it may, in some cases, like the early intervention 5 years back, neither there was any policy nor there was any proper delivery of services. So there may be a situation where nothing exists. And also there may be a situation sometime where something will exist, but they are not good for the people. So these kind of situations you have to keep in mind when you are approaching the government with your solution and negotiate and advocate what best that you can offer to the government. And these are all the various aspects which you can keep in mind while discussing with the government. You have to tell them that with concrete evidence, what are all the problems, and you have to tell them what result that you are trying to advocate for. If you are looking for a green energy, our country has said that we will be reducing the the toxic climate affecting aspects to 30% by next 50 years. So that is the kind of target the government has fixed for itself. Similarly, you may have to tell the government what you want to achieve. For example, we have said that the government of Tamil Nadu to reach out all the 100 children with the developmental delays under the age group of 6 to be reached out by 2030. So this is what we have advocated with the government and working with them. You also have to be on a very collaborative mindset. When we are talking about earlier, we said about the accessibility to bus stations, the accessibility to the elections. So when we approached them, initially the responses were not favorable. At one point or the other, we may have to sometimes take a more challenging approach. But it is always preferable that we go on a collaborative mode, and we in Amar Seva Sangam believe that collaboration helps to get better results, and it gets more focused. And if we go on a confrontation basis, then the issue gets diluted or diverted, and sometimes may go against the very purpose for which you are all working. And again, with the government, we need to be aware of the limitations and the challenges, like the bureaucracy, the corruption, the slow decision-making process. The government never looks at things in a holistic way. They always work in silos. The last mile delivery is always very bad with the government. So these are all the things we know. And accordingly, we have to pitch our solutions to suit the requirements of the not only the people, and also to the limitations of the government machinery. In Amar Seva Sangam, we advocated about our technology, about the convergence of the program, about how the partnership with the government and NGOs could work. And we offered them our technology and our solution and our evidence-based results as a key to justify what we are offering. And we told the government how it would be a win-win situation for them. We told the government that the solution should be high fidelity and high quality. And with this, they'll be able to reach out to large number of people. And this will also reduce the cost, not only the cost of delivery, but also the future savings arising out of the current improvements, the better way of living and better economic conditions arising out of these interventions. And when the children with disability gets more functional, gets admitted to the regular schooling, the later they become a big human resource, a potential resource which the society will benefit. So it is a win-win situation, and the government will be, become more popular as they introduce schemes for children with disabilities. The mothers and the parents are the ones who are most happiest, and that will fetch them a very good name in the long run. So, touching upon all these aspects, now again, when we are working with the government, we have said about the bureaucracy, the slow decision-making process and all that. So you can make a list of various authorities with whom you may have to negotiate, people from recommendation to decision-making, to funding, and other audit and evaluation will be there. There will be people in the local, district, state, national levels, some also in the international levels, with whom you may have to work with. So you can come out with some kind of a tool like this can be used, where you have a chart where the x-axis would be the amount of influence or power of the official, on the y-axis. On the x-axis, you have the extent of support that you are getting from those officials. So this chart, as we will share with you, you can get a better understanding. For example, in Amar Seva Sangam's chart, this is called as a power mapping chart, where we have mapped the green wherever the support is available. And the green is on the x-axis, shows the extent of which they are supporting and the authority, the level of authority they have. The red ones are those which are not favorable. They are resisting. So, and the yellow ones and the gray ones are somewhat neutral. and the yellow ones are neutral, and maybe the gray ones are aware, but may not be right now helping you in the project. So the important thing is in this mapping, you get a set of officials, the government authorities on the red side, which you have to try to move it towards right and make it yellow and then to green. So this is the advocacy that you may have to take up, and this exercise will be helpful to identify the people, the officials you may have to concentrate upon. Then how you move them from resistance to support. Many people will be supporting, many people will be resisting, and many people will not even be aware of what it is. So how to negotiate and advocate with them? There are three key elements: awareness, willing, and creating willingness among the government officials. And also they will have a lot of concerns about the government's ability or their capacity. So you have to package your information in such a way that it is easily understood by them and they understand the importance. You should be credible and it should be evidence-based, and some other better ways of presenting is through your digital means and infographics and other tools that has come. And also you should create a sense of empathy among the officials to support your cause. So if you say that if you do a particular intervention, there will be so much of benefits. And also if you say that if you don't do it, what risk that you will have to face. For example, in the early intervention, if the neglected children with disabilities are neglected, then it will result in a heavy burden on the family, and it will affect the economy and also the popularity of the government. There will be criticism that the government is not attending to this kind of vulnerable people, vulnerable families. So these kind of risks, we can tell the government to avoid. So this is one way of motivating them. And also telling them that by this you are creating a huge human resource potential at a later date. Then you also come out with various pros and cons for your project. You develop an argument, you develop an argument against, and you again develop a counter to the argument. So there are various pointers with which you can work. And for increasing the capacity, there are so many ways by which you can convince the government to increase their capacities through legislation, legislative frameworks, then policy guidelines, then infrastructure. Then you can tell them the tools that you are offering to build up this project. A lot of inputs on technology will help them. Then make them develop an advisory board, create specific departments, for example, a department for disability, and then an advisory committee on disability. So these are all some of the things by which you develop the capacity, make them create a budget for the particular cause at the government level, the budgetary support, then promote the public-private participation. This is one way. With the NGOs, a lot of capacity can be added up. The multilateral funding is one of them to fund. And as all these practices, all these tactics that you are using, you should have a very authentic data. Mostly it should be from an independent research. It should not look like that you are promoting your own work. It should be a credible, authentic data. Then you showcase that your success has been recognized by various people within India and abroad. And you should also talk to them at a higher level of thought process. And it should not be like you are indulging in promotional activities. And you should also tell that the government, you are the people who are the heroes. You are the ones who are going to make the big change. We have to tell them that you will be the most important people and bring media to highlight their participation, even if it is a very limited one. Even if the government authority is just inaugurating a project, you give a big public exercise on that, showing the ministers and showing the bureaucrats and focusing on them. So it will give a very good feel, and that will create champions for your cause. Then you should also showcase that your project at the pilot level to the current level of your scaled up operations is being supported by very credible organizations who are funding. So this will make the government to understand the full potentials of the project and its credibility. Then you have to articulate the long-term socio-economic benefits. And some of the things that you have to keep in mind are that you should understand that you should not insist that your solution is the only solution. You should have a co-creative mindset. And again, when you are talking about the solution and also the values, both the things you are carrying together. But at the same time, you should also realize that insisting too much of fidelity, too much of perfection will sometimes be misfiring. It will have an opposite effect. So that you should understand the practical aspects of the government, and in a mass solution, one has to accept the ground realities. And you should be politically neutral. You should be acceptable by all parties at all different levels. And you should have champions, because the government authorities keep changing. The politicians also keep changing. So you should have people always to support you in different ways in the government. And some of the problems are like the workers in the government may resist because of the monitoring and also the higher workload, because of the higher targets. These things you have to carefully handle and navigate and motivate them to accept your solutions. And above all, you should have a clarity on the ownership. You should be a good Samaritan. Your cause should be above all. You should not think that your identity is getting diluted. It is okay so long as the cause is served. So hold your cause above everything, even if it is not going to give you any benefits for the works that you have done, but the satisfaction of the social changes, satisfaction of the benefits because of you that is coming out should be the good reward for whatever that you are doing, whatever that you are initiating. So with these few words, I thank you all. There are so many annexures which we will share with you, which will be helpful for you. And now I will take question and answers so that we can have more interactive session with all of you. Kalyani, can you please allow people to unmute?
Yes, sir. Yes. I mean, yes, access given, sir.
Yeah. Now, if anybody has any questions, you can please share. You can please ask the question.
Raman.
Yeah.
Wonderful presentation.
Okay, thanks.
Before 1995,
Okay.
RCA didn't come into picture.
Okay.
So then they insisted all the institutions to be registered in RCA. Without registrations, they cannot do any rehabilitation work in their, NGO side.
Okay.
Gradually, government interfered in the field and insisted our people to get registered, and a bridge course was conducted, and all the rehabilitation workers were given the certification, and so many things. I think the new people may not be aware of all these things.
Okay. Yeah. RCA was one of the regulatory bodies that came into being 27 years back. And there were a lot of resistance at that time. But then the RCA also has undergone a lot of changes. And now they are more proactive and realistic. Now, a lot of good things are happening because of this RCA. The quacks are not there so much as it used to be before. And the services to the disabled are better organized. And there was a question about how to deal with the various government departments. How to network with various ministries. As we discussed, we need to tell them what benefits the particular ministry will get because of this exercise. So you need to advocate to them the tangible benefits and also tell them about what if they are not able to do the intervention, what negative implications it will have. So somebody has raised the hand. Can you please unmute yourself and ask the question? Yeah. There was also another question about how to advocate the goals and the objectives among the youth. The youth should be exposed to the social area in which you are working. If they are sensitized about it and the more awareness programs are brought into the fold of your initiative, then that will be the best way. In Amar Seva Sangam, we conduct a lot of youth awareness programs. We do the awareness programs for school-going children, among the girls who may be the potential mothers at a later stage. So this kind of sensitization is very important to bring the youth on board into our work, and their support will be very immense.
Can I ask a question? I mean, it's actually not a question. I mean, I'd like to just thank you for this very interesting session where you sort of suggested, thank you, Mr. Shankar Raman, for this session, because I mean, we are practicing some of these things in different ways, but to look at it from a kind of academic perspective of how to actually strategize some very interesting suggestions. It also requires some amount of, as you said, like we also will have to invest in researching and generating that empirical evidence that you talked about, so that we are able to convince authorities, and also perhaps get to have a fine understanding about the government's regulatory sort of systems and practices, because I know, I mean, at this point of time I am in the right at Shisharathi, we are also trying to converge the work that we do both in education and health and early intervention with government programs.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's a struggle, and it takes a lot of patience and convincing. And I think you said something towards the end, I think, about keeping your cause above all kind of thing. I think it's very important to establish that the cause is that sense of commitment of the organization to the work, so that they are ready to recognize you as a resource for taking this work further. And I mean, it's given us me some food for thought, because one is working at different levels of, the direct action and some scaling up, and also through our legislation unit, we do trying to bring in some systemic changes also. We feel that we need to work with government and also be like a watchdog also, and be alert to violations, to point out, take matters to court if need be, if they are, genuine grievances of and violations of law, file public interest litigations, maybe. I think it works. You have to have both, little bit of this and little bit of that. One comment that occurred to me when you were speaking, is this information about IMR and MMR and so on. So when you're working in early intervention, I think what tends to happen is that the focus is so much on the mortality rate that the issue of the morbidity, rate climbing because of the declining mortality rate. Those are, I don't know, maybe we should all together join hands and do some research and point this out to
yeah, absolutely right. You are absolutely right. See, the government priorities are some sort of focused on certain areas, and certain other consequences are lost out in the process. And one such thing is the issue of mortality rates are falling down. The disability rates are going up.
Yeah.
That's a very important thing that we are feeling on the ground. And these are some of the areas where we have to, tell the government what is happening, and many of them are aware of it, but it all requires some political will to bring certain changes. That is where we. And also, I appreciate your view on if things doesn't work, we may have to take a different route. It is not always that you keep collaborating with the government, but also as you said, we should have an eye on how is their performance, and how accountable is the government. Suppose they keep violating the rights of the people. As I was telling about the election aspect, when initially we were all refused. Maybe you also know, because you are a great advocate of the disability rights. And early 2001, 2002, there was a litigation in the Supreme Court which paved the way for the Election Commission to open up the, accessibility to
access to election.
Access to election. Otherwise, as we NGOs keep yelling at the government and nothing happened. So at some point or the other, when the political will is not there, or the bureaucratic resistance is too much, then we may have to resort to other means. As you know, in India, Sama, Dana, Bheda, Dandam. That's the four ways by which you can deal with the situation. Sama means you collaborate. Dana means you negotiate. Bheda means you try to, tell the people the consequences of not doing it. And Dandam is the final result. You have to go to the court. Maybe you have to take a rally and fight with them.
Yes,
we did that. In 1981, when nobody knew much about the disability, we were the ones in Chennai, on the main road in Chennai. We carried a placard saying a barrier-free environment. Nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
International Year for the Handicapped, but in India, even the minister did not know about it. So we have come a long way from that.
That's true.
No, yeah. I fully agree with you, Kathy.
Yeah. Maybe we should all do some research about this. I attended a workshop last week where a senior orthopedic surgeon spoke about, he was a polio expert, so to speak, done a lot of work with people with polio. And now he said that polio has kind of been eradicated. So those skills, the skills that the orthopedic surgeons have, they need to reinvent themselves. The health services have to be ready for he called cerebral palsy the next polio, the next big thing looming on us. So the health sector needs to be ready to deal with the sharp rise in incidence of cerebral palsy in the country. So think, that's just a comment. That's basically it.
Yeah. We need to be proactive to the evolving situations. Yeah, that's very true.
Yes.
Anybody else? I think somebody raised their hand. And we have shared with you the link, all of you, to please fill out the feedback form. And this is important.
Are you going to share the presentation as well?
Yeah, we will be sending it by email.
Okay.
Right now, it is not in the cloud, so we will be sharing it in the email.
Okay.
We will share the entire recording also.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everybody then. I think we have gone a little bit beyond our scheduled time.
Yes, yes. Thank you all. We have shared the feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill it out to get your e-certificates.
Thank you.
We will share the certificates by email. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
sir.
Bye.